The exploration vessel Starward Horizon drifted through the darkness of uncharted space. Commander Ethan Miller stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing an unusual energy reading from the planet below. The blue-green world looked peaceful from orbit, but something about it made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. "What do you think, Dr. Wright?" Ethan asked, turning to the ship's xenobiologist. Lisa Wright could barely contain her excitement. Her brown eyes sparkled as she studied the readings. "It's unlike anything in our database, Commander. These energy patterns suggest complex life forms, possibly with advanced biological systems. Or it could be a trap," said Security Chief Olivia Daniels from her station. Her hand rested near her sidearm, a habit from years of keeping crews safe. "We should maintain orbit and send probes first." Communications Officer Alan Garcia looked up from his console. "Earth Command has responded to our report. They want us to investigate but follow distance protocols. No unnecessary risks." Ethan nodded. He'd been exploring space for 15 years, but something about this planet felt different. "We'll take the shuttle down with a small team. Dr. Wright, Chief Daniels, you're with me. And let's bring Engineer Jackson for technical support." Kevin Jackson was in the engine room when he got the call. The young engineer wiped grease from his hands and grabbed his equipment bag. His first planetary exploration mission. He'd been waiting for this chance since joining the crew. 90 minutes later, the shuttle touched down on a rocky plain. The landscape around them seemed barren. Red rocks, sparse vegetation, and strange crystalline formations that reflected the light of the planet's twin suns. "Air is breathable," Lisa announced, checking her instruments. "Gravity slightly lighter than Earth. Temperature comfortable." The team stepped out, weapons ready but not raised. Ethan wanted to appear peaceful if they encountered intelligent life. "Spread out, but stay within visual range," he ordered. "Jackson, set up the sensor array. I want to pinpoint those energy readings." They worked quickly and efficiently. Lisa collected samples of the crystalline structures while Olivia established a perimeter. Kevin set up his equipment, frowning at the readings. "Commander, there's something strange here," he called out. "These energy signatures. They're moving, and they're coming from underground." Before Ethan could respond, the ground beneath them trembled. Lisa froze, her sample case dropping from her hands. "Everyone back to the shuttle." "Now!" Ethan shouted, but it was too late. The earth erupted around them. Creatures burst from the ground, sleek, powerful bodies covered in iridescent scales that shifted colors like oil on water. They stood taller than humans with 6 limbs that moved with frightening speed. Their elongated heads had no visible eyes, but arrays of sensitive pits that pulsed with electrical activity. "Don't move," Olivia whispered, her weapon now raised. "Slow retreat to the shuttle." One of the creatures turned its head toward them, the pits along its face glowing blue. It made a clicking sound, and the others responded, spreading out in a hunting formation that Ethan recognized with dread. "They're surrounding us," he said quietly. "On my mark, run for the shuttle. 3, 2. The creatures attacked with shocking speed. They moved like liquid lightning, closing the distance, faster than seemed possible. One leaped at Lisa, who barely ducked in time. Olivia fired her weapon, the energy pulse striking a creature in the shoulder. It screeched but didn't fall. "They're resistant to standard charges," she yelled, adjusting her weapon settings. Kevin was working frantically on his pad. "They're tracking our electrical signals, our nervous systems. They can sense our bioelectricity." Ethan grabbed Lisa's arm as they ran toward the shuttle. Olivia provided covering fire, but the creatures were learning, moving in patterns that avoided her line of sight. "Almost there," Ethan called out, seeing the shuttle just 50 meters away. A creature burst from the ground directly in their path. Olivia fired repeatedly, driving it back. But 3 more appeared behind them. "I'll hold them off," Kevin shouted. He grabbed an energy core from his bag and began modifying it. "Get to the shuttle! Jackson, no!" Ethan tried to turn back, but Lisa and Olivia pulled him forward. "He's giving us a chance, sir," Olivia said grimly, blood streaming from a cut on her forehead. They reached the shuttle as Kevin activated his makeshift device. A pulse of energy spread outward, temporarily disorienting the creatures. But as the shuttle doors closed, they saw Kevin being dragged beneath the surface, still fighting. "We have to go back," Ethan shouted, reaching for the door controls. "We can't." Lisa held him back, tears streaming down her face. "There are too many. We'd all die." The pilot launched the shuttle as creatures began climbing its hull. They clawed at the metal, leaving deep gouges. One creature looked directly through the viewport at Ethan, its sensory pits pulsing with what seemed like satisfaction. In orbit, the starward horizon sensors detected new energy signatures. Ships were launching from the planet's surface, organic-looking vessels that grew and changed shape as they ascended. "They have space technology," Alan reported, his voice tight with disbelief. "Advanced ships, forming pursuit pattern. Evasive maneuvers," Ethan ordered as the shuttle docked. "Prepare jump engines." Olivia collapsed as soon as they were aboard, a previously hidden wound on her side now bleeding freely. Medics rushed her to the infirmary while Ethan and Lisa hurried to the bridge. "Sir?" Alan called out, his face pale. "They're broadcasting a message in our language." "How is that possible?" Lisa whispered. "We barely made contact." Alan activated the communication system. A series of clicks and hisses came through, slowly forming into recognizable words. "The hunt begins." The alien vessels accelerated, their organic hulls shifting to create weapons ports. Energy blasts struck the starward horizon's shields. "Jump. Engines ready in 30 seconds, the navigation officer reported. "They're studying our defensive patterns," Lisa realized, watching the tactical display. "They're learning as they attack." Ethan gripped the command rail. "Send a final message to Earth Command. First contact hostile. New species predatory, technologically advanced. Warn all colonies." The ship shuddered under another impact. Shields were failing. "Jump now," Ethan ordered. The starward horizon vanished into faster-than-light travel just as the alien vessels closed in. But as stars streaked past the viewports, the crew knew they weren't safe. They had encountered a new alien species that saw humans as nothing more than prey, and they had just followed the scent back toward human space. In the infirmary, Olivia drifted in and out of consciousness. "They weren't just attacking," she murmured to Lisa. "They were enjoying it. Like sport." Ethan stood at the viewport, staring at the streaking stars. Somewhere behind them, Kevin was in the hands of creatures that hunted humans for sport. And ahead of them lay Earth and its colonies, unaware of the predators now following humanity's trail home. The hunt had only just begun. 6 months passed since the first encounter with the alien predators. Humanity now knew them as the Kreshak, a name taken from the clicking sounds of their language. In that short time, 3 outer colonies had fallen to their attacks. They didn't invade to occupy. They came to hunt. Captain Samantha Powell stood on the bridge of the defense vessel Defiant Shield, orbiting Colony Epsilon. Dark circles under her eyes showed the strain of constant vigilance. No one slept well anymore, not since the Kreshak had appeared. "Status report," she requested, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "All defensive systems active, Captain," her first officer replied. "Orbital platforms showing green. Ground forces report ready status." Samantha nodded. "And Dr. Bennett, is he ready for the briefing?" "Waiting in the conference room, ma'am." She found Dr. Paul Bennett studying a 3-dimensional model of what appeared to be living technology. The captured Kreshak ship fragment pulsed weakly, still alive despite being separated from its whole. "It's remarkable," Paul said without looking up. "Their ships aren't built, they're grown. Living metal with a nervous system. It can repair itself, adapt to damage." "Can it be killed?" Samantha asked bluntly. Paul finally looked at her. "Yes. That's the good news. The bad news is they learn extremely quickly from every encounter. Each ship we destroy makes the others stronger." The conference room filled with colony officials and military personnel. Samantha activated the display showing known Kreshak attack patterns. "They're targeting us systematically," she explained. "Not for resources or territory. They're treating our colonies like hunting grounds." Paul stepped forward. "We've analyzed their communication signals and behavior patterns. The Kreshak see us as prey species. They consider humans weak because we rely on tools instead of natural weapons. How do we fight predators who think we're just sport? Asked one of the colony officials. By understanding them, Paul replied. They hunt for status in their society. The more challenging the prey, the higher their standing. Right now, they see us as easy targets. We need to change that perception. Back on Earth, Director Nathan Reese of the Unified Defense Initiative sat across from intelligence analyst Diane Foster. Her office walls were covered with maps showing Kreshak attack sites. There's a pattern here, Diane said, highlighting specific locations. They're not just attacking randomly. They're specifically targeting our research facilities and military installations. Nathan frowned. You think they understand our infrastructure? That suggests more intelligence than just predatory instinct. I think they're eliminating threats first, then hunting civilians, Diane replied. Like hunters clearing away traps before pursuing game. She pointed to Colony Zeta on her map. This will be their next target. It's one of our strongest military outposts, but also isolated. Perfect for their hunting strategy. At that same moment on Colony Zeta, Marine Sergeant Chris Mendoza was training his squad for the expected attack. They practiced in an abandoned factory, using mannequins to represent Kreshak. Remember, conventional weapons have limited effect, Chris told his Marines. Aim for the sensory pits on their heads, and never ever let them isolate you. A young private raised her hand. Sergeant, how do we fight something that can sense our nervous system? Chris walked to a workbench and picked up modified suits. These contain electrical shielding. They won't hide us completely, but they'll confuse their senses. We've also developed weapons that overload their sensory systems. Before they could finish the training session, alarms blared throughout the colony. Chris grabbed his communication device. Report. Kreshak ships entering orbit, Sergeant. At least 5 vessels, larger than anything we've seen before. Battle stations, everyone in shielded gear now, Chris ordered. The attack came faster than anyone expected. Kreshak drop pods crashed through the colony's dome, each releasing 3 hunters. The aliens moved with frightening speed and purpose, ignoring easier civilian targets to strike directly at military positions. In the factory, Chris and his Marines held their ground as Kreshak broke through the windows. The fighting was intense and close. The aliens were stronger and faster, but the Marines had prepared with traps and barriers. Fall back to position 2, Chris yelled as more Kreshak poured in. His squad retreated in good order, but the aliens were hurting them, cutting off escape routes. Chris realized too late that they were being channeled into a killing zone. They're using tactics, he said in shock as he fired at a Kreshak that leaped from the shadows. They're not just hunting instinctively. The Marines were pushed back into the factory's main processing area. 6 of his 12 soldiers were already down. The remaining formed a defensive circle, but they were nearly out of ammunition for their special weapons. Chris looked around desperately. They wouldn't survive another coordinated attack. His eyes fell on the factory controls. An idea formed. Dangerous, but possibly their only chance. Cover me, he shouted, sprinting toward the control panel. A Kreshak dropped from the ceiling, landing in his path. Chris emptied his weapon into the creature, but it kept coming. In desperation, he grabbed a metal pipe and swung it with all his strength. The alien caught the pipe easily but seemed surprised by Chris's direct physical attack. For a brief moment, the Kreshak paused, its sensory pits pulsing with what might have been curiosity. That hesitation gave Chris the second he needed. He dove past the creature, rolled to his feet, and reached the controls. Everyone down, he yelled as he activated the factory's industrial magnets. Massive electromagnetic pulses flooded the area. The Marines, in their shielded suits, were mostly protected. The Kreshak, however, screamed in pain as their sensitive electrical organs overloaded. Several collapsed immediately while others staggered in confusion. Chris seized the opportunity. Take that one alive, he ordered, pointing to a stunned Kreshak that seemed different from the others, larger, with distinctive markings. The Marines swarmed the dazed creature using restraints designed to block electrical signals. For the first time since the attacks began, humans had captured a Kreshak alive. Hours later, in a secure facility, the restrained alien was designated Subject Alpha. Scientists and military personnel gathered to observe it. The creature had stopped struggling and now watched them with what seemed like calculated interest. "It's studying us," Dr. Bennett said, having arrived from Epsilon to examine the specimen, not just as prey but as opponents. Subject Alpha made a series of clicking sounds. Then, to everyone's shock, it spoke in broken human language. Strong prey, unexpected. On the Defiant shield, Captain Powell received the news about the captured Kreshak. For the first time in months, she allowed herself a small smile. "We're no longer just running," she told her crew. "Now we start fighting back." The Kreshak ships retreated from Colony Zeta, but they didn't leave human space. Instead, they regrouped, their organic hulls pulsing with communication signals. The hunt wasn't over, it was evolving. Dr. Lisa Wright adjusted the settings on her translation device as she studied Subject Alpha. The captured Kreshak watched her with its sensory pits pulsing in patterns she was starting to recognize as curiosity. After 3 weeks of working with the alien, she was making progress in understanding their communication. "Can you understand me better now?" Lisa asked, speaking slowly while the device translated her words into electrical patterns. Subject Alpha's head tilted. Its mouth parts clicked before responding in broken human language. "Yes. Your signals. Clearer." Lisa made notes on her tablet. Since returning from the first contact mission, she had dedicated herself to understanding the Kreshak. The death of Kevin Jackson still haunted her dreams. "I want to ask about your people," she said. "Why do you hunt humans?" The alien's sensory pits flashed with colors that the translation device interpreted as something between pride and confusion. "Hunt is life. Strong hunt weak. Humans are tool users, not natural hunters." In another room, Director Nathan, Reese, and Captain Samantha Powell watched through a one-way window. "It's like they can't understand that using tools is our natural adaptation," Samantha said. "They see our technology as a weakness, not a strength." Nathan nodded. Dr. Wright's report suggests their entire society is based on hunting prowess. Their technology isn't separate from their bodies, it's grown, like an extension of themselves. "Which explains why they don't respect us," Samantha replied. "They think we're cheating by using external tools instead of evolving natural weapons. We need to change how they see us," Nathan said. "And quickly. We've lost contact with 3 more colonies this week." Across the facility, Sergeant Chris Mendoza worked with Dr. Paul Bennett to test new defensive measures against Kreshak attacks. They had developed suits that masked human bioelectrical signatures and weapons that targeted the alien's sensitive electrical organs. "The problem is they adapt so quickly," Paul explained, examining data from their latest test. "Every time we find an advantage, they evolve countermeasures within days." Chris picked up one of the new pulse rifles. "Then we need to keep changing our tactics. If they want to hunt, let's show them that humans can be hunters too." On the bridge of the defense vessel Defiant Shield, now orbiting Earth for repairs, Captain Powell received an urgent message. "Research Station Omega is under attack, Captain. They're requesting immediate assistance." Powell made a quick decision. "Set course for Omega. Maximum speed." As her ship broke orbit, she contacted Director Reese. "We're responding to the attack. On Omega, I'll test Dr. Wright's new communication approach if possible." The research station was built into a small moon orbiting a gas giant. When the Defiant Shield arrived, 3 Kreshak vessels were already attached to the station's outer hull, their organic forms pulsing as they cut through the barriers. "Launch defensive drones," Powell ordered. "Target their attachment points. And prepare boarding teams, we need to get our people out." The battle was fierce. Powell's crew fought their way into the station, finding bodies of researchers and security personnel. The Kreshak were moving through the station with tactical precision. This isn't random hunting, Powell realized as she studied their movement patterns on her tactical display. They're specifically targeting the Central Research Lab. In that lab, a small group of scientists fought desperately to protect their work, research on Kreshak biology that could give humanity an edge. Leading them was Marcus Rivera, a brilliant engineer who had modified the station's equipment into makeshift weapons. "Hold the door," Marcus shouted as Krishak pounded on the reinforced barriers. "Help is coming." Powell's team fought through the station's corridors, closing in on the lab. Through broken windows and damaged walls, she observed something unusual. When her soldiers displayed unexpected tactics or strength, the Krishak hesitated as if reassessing. "They're studying us while they hunt," she realized. The rescue team reached the lab just as the Krishak broke through. In the chaotic fighting, Marcus was cornered by two aliens. With no weapons left, he activated an experimental device he had been working on, an electromagnetic pulse bomb. "Cover your eyes," he shouted before triggering the device. The explosion filled the room with blinding light and energy that overloaded the Krishak's sensitive organs. Both aliens collapsed, but Marcus was badly wounded by shrapnel. Powell expected the remaining Krishak to finish off the injured engineer. Instead, they withdrew to a safe distance, watching him with their sensory pits pulsing rapidly. "They're respecting him," Powell said in surprise, "because he fought back effectively." With the rescue team's arrival, the remaining Krishak retreated to their ships. Powell ordered her medics to stabilize Marcus while she studied the aliens' behavior through the station's security feeds. Back on Earth, Dr. Wright continued her sessions with Subject Alpha. Today she showed the alien videos of human history. How humans had once been prey animals who evolved into apex predators through intelligence and tool use. "Humans were prey once," she explained. "We became hunters by using our minds. Is that not worthy of respect?" The alien watched the footage of early humans hunting mammoths with spears and working together to overcome larger predators. Its reaction was difficult to interpret, but its next words were clear. "Unexpected. Prey becoming hunters. Interesting." In Director Reese's office, intelligence analyst Diane Foster presented her findings from analyzing combat footage. "There's a pattern here," she explained, highlighting video clips of Krishak encounters. "When humans show exceptional skill or strength, the Krishak behavior changes from predatory to observational. Look here. When this Marine took down 3 aliens before falling, the others didn't immediately kill him. They marked him with some kind of symbol first." Nathan leaned forward. "They're categorizing us. Based on our fighting ability?" "I think so," Diane nodded. "And there's more. The attacks on research facilities aren't just strategic. They're specifically targeting places studying Krishak biology. They don't want us to understand them." Dr. Bennett joined the meeting with a new theory. "What if we've been approaching this all wrong? What if instead of just defending, we need to hunt them back?" He displayed his research on Krishak social structures. Their entire society is built around hunting prowess. They respect strength and cunning. If humans can prove ourselves worthy opponents rather than mere prey, they might reconsider their approach. "You're suggesting we go on the offensive?" Nathan asked. "I'm suggesting we play by their rules," Paul replied. "Show them that humans can be predators too." Captain Powell's report from Research Station Omega came in, confirming Paul's theory. The Krishak had shown respect toward Marcus Rivera after his effective counterattack. Director Reese made his decision. "We need a special operations team. Hunters trained to track and engage Krishak on their terms." As if on cue, Commander Ethan Miller walked into the office, still haunted by the loss of his crewmate during first contact. He had spent months studying everything known about the Krishak. "I volunteer to lead that team," Ethan said firmly. "It's time we showed these aliens that seeing humans as prey was their first and last mistake." Commander Ethan Miller looked at the 6 people who would form his special hunting team. They weren't chosen for traditional military skills, but for adaptability and unconventional thinking. Each had demonstrated exceptional abilities during previous Krishak encounters. "You all know why we're here," Ethan said. "We're not just fighting the Krishak anymore. We're going to hunt them." Heather Collins checked her custom demolitions equipment. The former mining engineer had survived a Krishak attack by collapsing an entire tunnel section on her pursuers. "About time we took the fight to them," she said. Ryan Pearson, a tactical specialist with a background in wildlife tracking, studied the holographic maps of Krishak territory. "They've established hunting grounds on these 3 moons. That's Where we'll start? Ethan nodded. Dr. Wright has given us everything she's learned from Subject Alpha. The Kreshak have a complex honor system around hunting. If we can prove humans are predators too, we might change how they see us. The team spent 2 weeks in intensive training, learning Kreshak biology, behavior patterns, and hunting techniques. They practiced with new equipment designed to counter the aliens' natural advantages. Meanwhile, Dr. Wright made another breakthrough with Subject Alpha. Using her improved translation device, she asked about Kreshak society's hierarchy. Hunt determines status, the alien explained, its sensory pits pulsing with what Wright now recognized as pride. Greatest hunters lead. What about species that can hunt Kreshak? She asked. Has that ever happened? Subject Alpha's reaction was intense, a rippling pattern of colors across its sensory organs that the translation device struggled to interpret. Finally, it responded, "Worthy prey, highest honor, not prey anymore. Rival hunters." Wright immediately reported this to Director Reese. They have a special classification for species that can effectively hunt them. Worthy prey changes the relationship from simple predation to something closer to respectful competition. So that's our goal, Reese said. Earn this worthy prey status. Yes, Wright agreed, but it won't be easy. They've been apex predators for thousands of years. Few species have ever achieved this classification. On the Defiant shield, now fully repaired and upgraded, Captain Powell prepared to support Miller's team. The Special Operations Shuttle was docked in her ship's bay, modified with stealth technology and biological camouflage to mask human electrical signatures. This is either the bravest mission I've ever seen, or the craziest, Powell told Miller, as his team made final preparations. Maybe both, Ethan replied with a grim smile. But we need to change the rules of this fight. The mission launched in secret. The Defiant shield transported Miller's team to the edge of Kreshak territory, then withdrew to a safe distance. The Special Ops shuttle continued alone, using its stealth systems to approach a small moon that intelligence identified as a Kreshak hunting ground. They landed in a rocky canyon, far from known Kreshak patrols. Ryan took point, using advanced sensors to track Kreshak movements. Remember, Ethan told his team as they moved out, we're not here to kill indiscriminately. We're here to demonstrate that humans are hunters, not prey. Their first target was a small Kreshak outpost. Rather than attacking directly, they used tactics the Kreshak would respect: patience, stealth, and carefully laid traps. Heather set up devices that mimicked human bioelectrical signatures to lure Kreshak hunters into prepared ambush zones. The plan worked perfectly. 2 Kreshak tracked the false signals into a narrow ravine where the team waited. Using their new weapons and tactics, they subdued the aliens without killing them. Now for the important part, Ethan said. He took out a marker containing a chemical that matched the Kreshak's own body markings. Following patterns identified in Dr. Wright's research, he marked each captured alien with a distinctive symbol, the same one Kreshak used to identify worthy adversaries. Then they released the confused but unharmed aliens. Will they understand the message? Heather asked as they watched the Kreshak retreat. If Wright's research is correct, they'll recognize that we're playing by their rules, Ethan replied. Now we move to the next location before they regroup. Over the next 10 days, Miller's team continued their campaign across the moon. They tracked Kreshak hunting parties, studied their methods, and turned those same techniques against them. With each successful capture, they marked and released their targets, building a reputation among the Kreshak. On Earth, Director Reese implemented the next phase of the plan. Using Wright's translation technology, they broadcast a formal challenge to Kreshak leadership, a proposal for a regulated hunt where humans and Kreshak would compete as equals. The message was simple. We are not prey. We are hunters. We challenge you to prove your skill against ours, hunter to hunter. For days, there was no response. Miller's team continued their operations, though they noticed Kreshak behavior changing. The aliens were becoming more cautious, treating human territory with greater respect. Then they encountered something unexpected. a Krishak wearing elaborate armor with distinctive markings. "That's a hunt leader," Ryan whispered, as they observed from hiding. "Based on Wright's intelligence, his name is Vexkar. He's high-ranking." Vexkar wasn't hunting randomly. He was specifically tracking Miller's team, following their trail with skill that impressed even Ryan. The hunt leader moved with purpose, studying their techniques and adapting his approach. "He's hunting us specifically," Ethan realized. But not like prey, like worthy opponents. For 3 days, they played a dangerous game of cat and mouse with Vexkar. The hunt leader nearly caught them twice, showing intelligence and adaptability that exceeded their expectations. "We need to end this," Ethan finally decided. "Set up the trap at the canyon junction." They prepared their most elaborate ambush, yet using everything they had learned about Krishak hunting patterns. Heather set charges to create a controlled rock slide. Ryan prepared false trails. The team positioned themselves with perfect sightlines. When Vexkar entered the trap zone, they executed their plan flawlessly. The hunt leader fought with impressive skill but eventually found himself surrounded, disabled by their specialized weapons. As Ethan approached the subdued alien, Vexkar watched him with sensory pits pulsing rapidly. There was no fear in that alien gaze, only assessment. Ethan took out his marker. Instead of using the worthy opponent symbol they had used before, he carefully marked Vexkar with the Krishak's own personal hunting mark, a sign of highest respect in their culture, indicating that the human had bested the hunt leader at his own game. Then, instead of killing his helpless opponent, Ethan stepped back and lowered his weapon. "Go," he said, knowing the translation device on his wrist would convert his meaning. "Tell your leaders that humans are not prey." Vexkar rose slowly, touching the mark on his chest. For a moment, the two hunters regarded each other. Then the hunt leader made a gesture that Dr. Wright's research identified as respect between equals. The alien turned and disappeared into the landscape, but not before activating a communication device. Within hours, the Krishak ships in orbit began transmitting signals toward their home territory. "I think we just got their attention," Ryan said. Ethan nodded. "Now let's see if they accept our challenge." The neutral planet was a world of rugged mountains, dense forests, and vast plains, perfect hunting grounds. 10 humans and 10 Krishak stood at opposite ends of a valley as dawn broke over the horizon. This was the formal hunt competition that would determine humanity's status among the stars. Director Nathan Reese had been surprised when the Krishak High Hunt Master accepted humanity's challenge. "They're actually willing to negotiate," he told his advisors. Miller's team changed. Their perspective: Captain Samantha Powell, Commander Ethan Miller, Sergeant Chris Mendoza, Heather Collins, Ryan Pearson, Dr. Lisa Wright, Engineer Marcus Rivera, and 3 other skilled fighters had been chosen to represent humanity. Each wore specially designed hunting gear that provided protection while honoring the spirit of the competition. Across the valley, the Krishak team was led by Vexkar, now bearing a scar from his encounter with Miller's team. The aliens' sensory pits pulsed with colors that Dr. Wright's translation device interpreted as anticipation and respect. Between the two groups stood a neutral arbiter, a member of a spacefaring species that had achieved worthy prey status. Centuries ago, the tall avian-like being raised its arms. "The hunt of equals begins," it announced in both human and Krishak languages. "No killing blows. The goal is to mark, not destroy. The hunt ends at sunset. May skill and honor prevail." With that, both teams disappeared into the landscape. The hunt officially begun. "Remember the plan," Ethan told his team as they split into pairs. "This isn't about winning through force, it's about proving we understand hunting as they do." Powell nodded. "We need to demonstrate human ingenuity and teamwork. Show them our adaptability is our natural weapon." The human team spread out using the tactics they had developed over months of studying Krishak hunting methods. Ryan and Heather headed for the highlands, using Ryan's tracking skills to set ambushes. Chris and Marcus took the forest, where Marcus's technical skills could create advantages. Powell and Dr. Wright moved toward the plains, where Wright's understanding of Krishak biology would be crucial. Ethan and his partner took the most dangerous route, directly into territory where Vexkar was likely hunting. The competition was fierce but fair. The Kreshak were naturally faster and stronger, with built-in sensory advantages, but humans countered with teamwork and creative solutions. When Chris found himself cornered by two Kreshak, Marcus created a diversion using sound and electrical signals that confused their senses just long enough for Chris to escape. Heather demonstrated human cunning by creating false trails that led pursuing Kreshak into harmless but embarrassing traps. One alien was marked with her symbol after falling into a pit of sticky plant sap she had discovered and modified. By midday, the score was close. 3 humans had been captured and marked with Kreshak symbols, while the humans had successfully marked 4 Kreshak. The competition had drawn the attention of both species. From orbit, ships from Earth and the Kreshak homeworld monitored the hunt, broadcasting it to their respective populations. In the rocky terrain near the center of the hunting grounds, Ethan moved carefully, sensing he was being tracked. He knew who was following him. Vexkar had been shadowing him for hours, neither attacking nor retreating, simply studying him. He's testing me, Ethan realized, learning my methods. A sudden rumble shook the ground. Both hunters looked up to see dark storm clouds gathering with unnatural speed. The neutral planet's weather was notoriously unpredictable, and a dangerous storm was forming directly above them. The first lightning strike hit too close, splitting a nearby rock formation. The second triggered a landslide that sent tons of stone cascading down toward both hunters. Ethan leaped for safety, but saw Vexkar trapped, a boulder pinning his lower limbs. The Kreshak struggled, his sensory pits flashing distress signals. Without hesitation, Ethan ran back into the danger zone. The landslide was still active, rocks tumbling down with deadly force. He reached Vexkar and braced himself against the boulder, using all his strength to shift it enough for the alien to pull free. As they scrambled to safety, a final surge of debris nearly engulfed them. Vexkar, now free, grabbed Ethan and pulled him clear with his superior strength. They collapsed in a protected alcove as the landslide thundered past. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, hunter and former prey, each having saved the other's life. Then Vexkar did something unprecedented. He used the translation device he carried to speak directly to Ethan. "Why risk life for enemy?" the alien asked, genuine confusion evident in his pulsing sensory organs. Ethan caught his breath before answering. "You're not prey or enemy, you're a worthy opponent that deserves respect." The Kreshak studied him silently, then made a gesture Dr. Wright had identified as profound understanding, touching his sensory pits and then extending his hand toward Ethan. When the storm cleared, they emerged together, neither marked by the other, walking side by side to the gathering point where the hunt would conclude. As sunset approached, both teams assembled before the arbiter. The final count showed an even match. Each side had captured and marked 5 opponents. The High Su Huntmaster stepped forward, towering over the human representatives. "Humans fight differently," the massive alien said through a translation device. "Not stronger, not faster, but adaptable, unexpected." Dr. Wright stepped forward. "Different hunting methods can be equally effective. Humans evolved as prey animals who became predators through intelligence and cooperation. Our tools are not separate from us. They're expressions of our natural abilities, just as your physical weapons are expressions of yours." The High Huntmaster considered this, his sensory pits shifting through complex patterns. Finally, he made a ceremonial gesture, touching each human representative with a special marking tool. "Status changed," he announced. "Humans now worthy prey, no longer hunted without honor, now respected adversaries." Director Reese, watching from Earth via video link, let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. They did it. In the days that followed, Dr. Wright worked with Subject Alpha, now recognized as a scholar among the Kreshak, to establish foundations for diplomatic relations. They learned the Kreshak had a rich cultural tradition centered around the concept of the worthy hunt, combat between equals that elevated both parties. The first formal treaty between humans and Kreshak established boundaries and rules of engagement. Some hunting would continue, but as ritualized competitions with strict rules rather than indiscriminate predation. Humanity began integrating aspects of Kreshak hunting culture into specialized military training, while the Kreshak showed new interest in human technology and social structures. The most profound change came 6 months later, when Vexkar arrived at Earth as the first Kreshak ambassador. He was escorted by Commander Miller, now Earth's representative to the Kreshak homeworld. As they walked through the diplomatic center, Ethan noticed something unexpected. Vexkar was using a human-designed tool to assist with translation. Use human technology now? Ethan asked, surprised. Vexkar's sensory pits pulsed with what Ethan had learned was wry amusement. Adaptability is strength, the alien replied. Kreshak learned this from humans. Tool users not weak, just different hunters. Dr. Wright, observing nearby, smiled at the final irony. The predators who had dismissed humans for using tools were now adopting human methods themselves. The hunt continued, but now as a dance between equals rather than the pursuit of prey.